Welcome back to my channel. Subscribe if you have not done so, like and share this video. As you can see, I have marked out my starting point, also known as my shoulder line. What I'm doing here is I'm marking 3.5 as my shoulder length because the person is bigger, and I'm marking out 3.5 depth neckline, making it 3.5 by 3.5. I'm using my ruler to mark out my depth line so that it will match up with the length of the neckline. I'm using a straight ruler to do this. Then after marking it out, make sure that the line is connected very well, it's in a straight form. Then after, I use my armhole curve ruler to curve my neckline. After connecting my neckline, I measured the shoulder, which is 9 inches. Then I measured down, which is 9 inches also, because the person's armhole, around armhole, I think is, if you divide it by 2, it will give me 9 inches. So I have to rule this down and cross it over. Then after crossing, I use my tape to measure half of the armhole. After measuring up the half, I minus half inches from the half that I measured. I divided into 2. I used 1 inches up. Then I use my armhole curve to connect those lines, making sure this is the front armhole measurement, so that if the person wears the clothes, there will be enough allowance so that the clothes will not be all tight. It will not give a puffy, you know what I mean. So after connecting the armhole, I minus 1 inches from the shoulder line, that's my shoulder slope. I use depending on the type of style that I want to sew, but this time I minus 1 inches for the shoulder slope and added half inches for sewing allowance. Yeah, that's my sewing allowance. After the half inches sewing allowance, I measured her bust line. That will be her bust. I measured her bust line, then her waistline, and also hip and the full length. I use my straight ruler to rule everything out, knowing which type of measurement to take, like the waist, the bust, the hip, and the full length. So I will use that length that I draw to make my body circumference. I readjusted the material to make sure that everything is in the right place. And I use my tape rule to measure down to make sure that the material reaches 44 inches in length, and also sewing allowance of 2 inches. After that, I draw the fabric up again and readjusted the fabric so that there will be equal parts. So after, I cross-check her measurements, and also what I'm doing here is I divided her bust measurement by 4, and I'm measuring it out and marking it out also. Remember that I will add some inches because the gown is a free gown. I added 1.5 inches to her bust circumference. I'm measuring her waistline. After measuring her waistline, I also added 1.5 inches. I did this down to the full length so that it will give me a flow. Guys, what I did here, if you check that your client material is not up to, or it will not reach to that full length, please add some inches to make the gown to flow rather than making it in a bias form to avoid the gown to be short. Guys, I use my French curve ruler, my hip ruler, to connect those lines that are out. Please, if you know that your client's material not reach to make the flare that you want, don't try making it in a bias form to avoid shortness of the material. Just make it, add some inches so that the gown will be a free gown and it will flow. Here I'm adding 2 inches sewing allowance to the gown because the gown will not have that fitting. It's your waist measurement. It doesn't even have your hip measurement. Is just to get the hip measurement and add extra inches so that the gown is not tight, and the gown doesn't supposed to be tight. Guys, if you're using your hip curve, use the inner curve part as your from your bust to the waist, and use the outer to measure your hips. Then after connecting my sewing allowance, all I have to do is to use my pin and pin it all down to avoid it to shake, or to avoid the fabric to shake, and also to make it steady and equal. Guys, I'm using my armhole curve to connect those lines that I marked out before. Yes, that's what I did. You can see the shape here in this video. Then guys, remember that I pinned that any adjustment that I'm making, the cloth will not shift. I am cutting the fabric on the sewing allowance marked out that I did, not on the main measurement. Guys, after marking everything out, remember that your armhole, to mark exactly how you marked out your front armhole. Guys, what I'm using is my fabric scissors. I don't use these scissors for any other thing except on fabric. And remember, when cutting, don't draw your fabric. Don't draw it, just use your hand to hold it down like I'm doing here. Use your hand to hold the fabric. Yes, don't draw the fabric up or draw it down, just hold it with your hand. Guys, after I'm placing the fabric for my back pattern of the style, then all I have to do is to use the front fabric and place it. After placing it, I'm using my pin to hold everything down so that there will be equal measurements and everything, equal measurements, equal length and everything. Guys, I'm marking out my back neckline, and what I use 1.5 depth and 3 inches wide, 3.5 inches wide. I'm trying to secure the fabric, also to strengthen the fabric. There will be no rumple or anything. Guys, remember, if the fabric that you're working out is rumple, try to iron it before your measurements. I'm cutting out the excess fabric that I have here. Guys, I removed the front pattern to avoid cutting it. I use it to make the measurements, but the armhole, the back armhole and the front armhole is not the same, and also the neck is not the same. So after measuring the bust, the waist, the hip and the full length, I removed the front pattern and started measuring the back. After measuring the back, what I'm doing is that I have to cut out the excess fabric that I have. Guys, please try to encourage me, like, share, subscribe to this video, and also, you know, I need corrections in case if I'm making mistake. Here is my hand measurement. I'm measuring the full length. I'm using my straight ruler to measure the full length. Then I measured 6 inches for the armhole. Then I have to measure 9 inches down. That is my 9 inches down. I have to pin this fabric so that it will not shift or shake or do anything, but I have to pin it down to hold the fabric. I ruled the 9 inches and also add my 1 inch sewing allowance. Guys, I marked out my 4 inches and length and also my 3.5 inches inside the fabric, and I'm using my armhole curve to give the upper armhole the sleeve length, the sleeve curve. Then after curving it out, I will place it inside, place the curve inside to give me the inner armhole curve, and also measure it down, trace it down to the end of the armhole, to the end of the sewing allowance. I marked out the client's bicep circumference. I added 1.5 inch, then I connected the lines using my straight ruler. After connecting the line, I cut out the excess fabric that I have. I'm taking my time cutting the curves of the sleeve to avoid cutting the main thing that I did. Guys, remember that don't waste your client's fabric, so you have to manage everything, that you have to manage the fabric very well. I have cut out my 2 sleeves, so now is to cut out the facing of the fabric because the fabric is light, so I have to cut out the sleeve fabric, the sleeve facing. I pin the wrong side to another pattern of the fabric and cut out. There is no need measuring again. All I have to place the cut out fabric to a new pattern and cut it out. Then after cutting it out, I have to pin and notch. After notching and everything, I placed another new pattern and cut out the neck facing for the front neck. After cutting the neck facing, I will have to cut the back facing so that it will turn out so neat and the finishing will look so neat and clean. After cutting the back facing, this is my gown fabric. This is the facing, both the front and the back that I have. I have to fold it. Then guys, for the neck, I'm placing it in a bias form. After measuring it, I have to cut it out for the collar because the collar is kind of have a big toe, so that it can be able to tie it. Then I'm measuring the collar in a bias form. After measuring it out in a straight line, I have to use my ruler to connect the lines. After connecting the lines, I have to cut my fabric. Guys, this can be so tricky. If your hand is not straight, please pin the fabric before cutting to avoid mistakes. Then after cutting the collar in a bias swab, I have to place it on another material to cut out again. That is the end of our tutorial. See the outlook of the gown. Thanks for watching. God bless you. Bye.